You look at Moses' life, as we think about our own life, I really believe where it all needs to start is with something I call a holy discontent. Now, for a definition of a holy discontent, I'm going to turn to one of my favorite theologians, and that's Popeye the Sailor Man. And Popeye says it like this. He says, I stands alls that I could stands, and I can't stands anymore. And I don't know exactly where it happened in Moses' life, but in the book of Hebrews, on that wonderful chapter of the heroes of faith at verse 24, it says, by faith Moses, when he had grown up, refused to be known as the son of Pharaoh's daughter. There was something that occurred in Moses' life where he began to understand that God had put him in a special place, that God had a calling on his life, that God had a purpose for his life, and that was to set the captives free. Something happened to Moses where he had to make a decision. Am I going to be an Egyptian or am I going to be a Hebrew? If he would have chosen to go the path of the Egyptian, he would have been on easy street the rest of his life. But he rejected that because he knew that God's purpose for him was to set the captives free. And that's God's purpose for all of us. I thought that John just clearly demonstrated that last night, not in the words he said, but in the emotional passion in which he delivered them. And that was a choice that I was faced with at a very young age of life, if I was going to use my life to set the captives free. And I still remember it. I was probably maybe 12 years old, and it occurred over a game of kick the can. Everybody know how to play kick the can? Now, just for those of you who don't, this is, now today it's Xbox 360s and all this other things. My son wanted one. I said, how about a can? I said, there's this great game, and you can have all your friends over, and I had a great time playing it. And so what you do is you take a can and you put it on the driveway, and the person who's it starts to count, and everyone else runs and hides and go out and you look for people, and when you find them, you race. It's a mad dash back to the can, and if the person who's it gets there first, he puts his foot on the can and says, 1, 2, 3 on John coming in, and then John has to go to prison, and prison is this terrible place. It's a 10 by 10 square in your driveway, and kids sit in there, and they whine, and they scream for someone to come and kick the can and set the captives free. Well, on this day, we were pretty bored and wondering what to do, and we're all sitting around and trying to figure out what to do, and all of a sudden my friend John says, let's play kick the can. And I'm like, no. He's like, what? I want to play kick the can. What he didn't know is that the neighborhood bully, Gordy, was coming up behind him, and Gordy played kick the can different. Gordy didn't race you in to kick the can. Gordy tackled you, picked you up by your head, and dragged you in, put his foot on the can, and threw you in jail. So anyways, Gordy says, let's play kick the can, and I'm it. And he starts counting. Now, I don't know what amazed me more is that Gordy was it or that Gordy knew how to count, but needless to say, I started running for my life. And I'm running, and I rounded the corner of Miss Miller's house, and there she had this big pine tree, and I just dove right in it. And I stood up, and I backed up right into her house, and what I discovered is that I could see out, but no one could see in. And from the viewpoint of my tree, I began to hear the slaughter of all my friends. Gordy tracked them down one by one, dragged them in. They were screaming and crying out in horror, and before you knew it, they were all in prison. And they started to say, Todd, come and kick the can. Todd, you can do it. They started chanting, Todd, he's our man. If he can't do it, no one can. And I started in the tree. I was getting real inspired. And I'm like, this is it. I'm going to go and I'm going to kick the can and I'm going to set the captives free. And all of a sudden, Gordy walks by my tree and says, I'm going to find that Todd and I'm going to rip his arms off. And if I find him. And so I was kind of conflicted. I had all my friends on the one hand that wanted to be free. And then I had Gordy, who I knew he was just going to pulverize me when he found me. And I'm sitting there and they're chanting and I'm wondering, well, what am I going to do this? I could be the hero of Baldwin Avenue. I could go down and history, and Gordy was there, and all of a sudden I just said, okay, I need to make a decision, and there is no way in the world I'm leaving this tree. I am not going to set the captives free. They can sit there in prison, and I am not letting Gordy kill me. And I sat there, and eventually they kind of all gave up, and they went home, and came out from the tree, and that was kind of it. And I'm not a person who looks back on my life and has a lot of regret, but I always regret not breaking free from that tree and setting the captives free. As I sat there, I thought to myself, I really don't want to pay the price. I don't want to put myself in a situation. I don't want to use the skills and the gifts that God has given me, because fear was greater than the calling to set them free.